In this video, I want to provide a course overview. That way you have an idea of what you'll be expected to get done in this online class. So everything is organized in Blackboard, and it's organized in weekly folders, beginning with week 1, right? We've also got the syllabus and resources folder that you should review first. Each week's work should be completed as early that week as you can. Try not to put everything off until the end of the week. I say that because that means at the end of the semester you'll actually be behind. You won't be able to prepare for the final exam, so you want to try to get ahead. I'll also use the announcements feature, which should be connected to your email if you've registered the email. If you're having trouble with that, you need to contact the help desk. Which is you can do either on person or you can do it online. I'll also send out invitations or reminders or opportunities for career and program services, things that are relevant to your major as criminal justice majors, or things that you should know about going on campus, or other opportunities like internships. And then I'll send reminders about the coursework using the announcements features as well. In addition to it going to your email, you can also go into My Announcements and you'll see a list of them just in case you forget something that we were supposed to be doing. I'll also use the grading feature, which will give you a general idea of how you're doing. And then you'll find all of the content in the course content section that you see here. And then finally we'll be using the discussion board where you see the discussions labeled there on the left hand side. So you should start with the syllabus. I'm asking you, this is the only assignment you're going to need to do this, but I'd like you to do 5 annotations in the reading. So you click open the reading here. It says assignment reading syllabus. You click that, it opens up as you see here on the bottom. And then you're going to highlight some of that text and you're going to respond to it using these instructions here. So if you have a question, you put a Q and then you write your question. If something is something you really like or you love, you mark it with an L and then you explain why. If something's surprising or confusing, right, you use a C or an S there. And this helps me see how you're understanding the syllabus and if we need to go over anything. And hopefully you don't get behind. You need to do 5 of those, and those are basically like making comments. If you're having any trouble, email me at jason.leggett@kbcc.cuny.edu anytime. Use your Kingsborough email when possible, and if you're struggling, right, let me know. After the annotations, I want you to complete the syllabus review form assignment, okay, and that you'll find in the syllabus and resources with the number 2, right? So 1, you click the syllabus, you make the annotations, and then 2, you're going to complete a Google form assignment that goes over some more detailed questions. I wanted to provide a couple examples of an annotation. So this student used the Q code for a question, then they gave the question. You could also use S for surprised or L for love. The other student showed that they were engaging, that they had some comments that were showing that they understood the material that they're reading. We have a required textbook. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is. The entire course is organized around this textbook. I have co-written much of the textbook with my fellow author Helen Margaret Nasser. What we've done is we've put together a bunch of cases that are important for you to know, but we've organized it in such a way that we provide context so that you understand the deeper meanings behind these cases and that you specifically understand the social relationships and how that works within the system. And so in order to analyze the criminal justice system, I'm helping you get a better idea of the bigger picture, and then how you're able to apply that to your individual life within your social groups. And so this helps you understand constitutional law as a body of scholarship, as a body of knowledge better, and help you understand it more thoroughly. You can get these materials a number of places, but I recommend going through the publisher's website. If you have any issues, you can contact them directly. We tried to get the price, down to an affordable price, Constitutional law textbooks tend to be over $150, and so we got this down as low as we could. There are authors who get paid from our use of their works, which is pretty standard in publishing, and so that does push the price up a bit. So, Bell Hooks has a reading in there, and so she gets paid, a royalty, or her estate gets paid a royalty based on those fees, and so you're kind of getting what you pay for, kind of thing. If you're having any issues, please reach out to me and let me know, and we'll try to work it out. You can get the online version, a digital version, if that's something that you're comfortable with using, and you'll see there's a couple different ways of accessing that. And then there's also a paperback edition. It costs a little bit more than the ebook because they have to print it and mail it to you and everything. You can also check the Kingsborough Library. It's probably going to be a little bit more expensive because they mark it up. And then I did hear that there's a copy at the library, but you can let me know if that's true or not. I did submit one, but we'll see if it's there. Grading, which is probably important to most of you. There's a few categories of grades that we want to go over, and I'll go over in more detail. There are 5 discussion boards that you're going to participate in. Actually, I think there's 6, so there's one of them is going to have to be extra credit. There are 2 quizzes. One's worth 11 points, the other one's 15. There's a syllabus annotation and review assignment. Those 2 assignments, those are worth up to 20. There's a sovereignty assignment worth 10 points. There's 3 case analysis assignments, which we'll go over in a second, that are a pretty big chunk of your grade. And then the final exam is worth 35 points. There are grading rubrics to help you learn and how to see what your progress is and what you need to do in order to improve. And then I do offer extra credit from time to time. These are usually short reaction papers, a couple pages, letting me know what you think about something, or what makes you, what your feelings are towards it, or maybe a study that you do of other people, you interview them. These are not summaries of readings or cases. I'm not looking for book report style papers. I'm looking for your own ideas and to learn more about how you're understanding. To get an A in this class, you need to get at least 168 points, and to pass the class, you would need to get at least about 130 points. Now, the discussion boards, you should really refer to pages in the textbook and use quotes. So to say, use a specific quote and then actually put the page number that you're getting it from in your answers. That shows me that you're engaging and that you understand the course material. In all of the posts, you need to respond to another student's post, and to get full credit, you need to further that engagement. Don't just say, oh yeah, I agree with you, or good point. Right? Add to what they're saying, maybe get them to see something that you saw that they didn't see, or maybe highlight something that you learned as you read their posts. Your grading is not just, you did it and so you get all the points. It's based on the quality. How good is your answer? Is it accurate? Are you using the course materials? Are you using the course concepts? And are you following instructions? Ultimately, discussion boards give me an opportunity to see kind of how you're dealing with the concepts as you're learning them, and how you interact with each other. Forming a bit of a dialogue helps me see whether you actually understand the concepts, or if it's kind of more superficial learning, that you're not really engaging with the material. The textbook, again, is critical for your learning and grade. So what most of the readings are context, methods, and cases. That's kind of the bulk of this class. Is you're going to be learning about constitutional law by important cases and the reasoning that occurs in those cases within a larger societal context, and you need a certain methodology or approach or a way of analyzing those cases. And so this comes, right, the textbook is what's teaching you how to do that. It has you in mind. It's been developed over several years. This is the 2nd edition. had a lot of student feedback, as well as peer review, which is people in the field, including a constitutional lawyer. And I think you want to be able to refer to the readings throughout the course. You want to kind of constantly be going back to it and pulling out what you need to be able to answer the questions. I've also given you 2 examples here of kind of what your assignments look like, right? So there'll be critical analysis, or asking you to apply your learning, and I've given you learning outcomes in each of the units so that you can kind of see what you're supposed to be able to do. There's a vocabulary and definitions in the text that you want to refer to, and then there's a set of cases. Each unit will have a set of cases that all kind of share a common theme you're being asked to analyze. Now there are 2 quizzes, and so here is an example of a question that comes from the quiz. So it's really looking to see basically how you're comprehending the reading and whether you're able to apply it outside of that specific context. Your grade is going to reflect the number of right answers you get. There's no makeups or takeovers. This is a way for you to see how much you're remembering and what you need to work on. The other assignments are about critical thinking and analysis. So this is asking, can you apply the course concepts, not just repeat the definitions of them, but are you able to actually show me you understand them? And are you able to explain your learning well? Are you able to do it in a way that's comprehensive and persuasive to me that you're learning the topics? In the case analysis, there's 3 things that students struggle with, and so I made a video using real student answers to show some of the problems and what students were doing well. So you should definitely watch that video before you do the analysis. And really what I'm asking you to do is to identify an injustice or controversy, and this shows me your ability to identify what issue or issues are being debated. And it's better to use quotes from the case if you're struggling with this. Some students kind of pick it up pretty quickly. Other students really struggle. You might be used to summarizing. You might be, going online and copying and pasting, and so your scores are going to be pretty low if that's what you're doing, because you have to be able to show me that you understand the big picture and that you've identified what the injustice or controversy is. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're a little bit different, and I want to give you a little bit of freedom to pick from which point of view. The rights claim is something that students get better at in this class, but they struggle about it at first. And it's what right the petitioner, the plaintiff, is trying to use. What are they trying to say about constitutional law that gives them a right that they think is being infringed or taken away from them or violated? But sometimes it could also be, and probably every time, but you might focus on what right the Supreme Court justices are applying. So maybe it's not the same right. Maybe the petitioner thinks they're right, but the justices say, no, we don't think you have that right. And so you want to be able to analyze those differences. And critical thinking is really this ability to show multiple points of view, that you see that there's not just one answer, especially in a class like law, and that you also are able to show your reasoning. So you're not just stating a conclusion, you're showing me how you got there. Analysis requires you to locate your own individual standpoint. We call this identity in the book. Some of you, I have this pretty well organized. I have students who say, I'm a 3rd generation immigrant from Turkey. Other people say I'm an African American male. Other people say I'm a fun-loving baseball player, right? People have different ways of constructing their identity, and that helps develop your standpoint. On the other side of that, though, is that you don't just get to be whoever you want or say whatever you want, right? There's a world around you, and people are labeling you or stereotyping you, or categorizing you or putting you into a process, and so you need to be aware of that as well as forming your identity. To be able to do that, then you examine unequal power relationships within what we're looking at in this class is the legal system, and this helps us see what we call agency, your ability to be an agent of change. So you have to see how would you use the legal system, or how is it being used against you, or how is it constraining what you'd like to do, And then for you to take a position, which we're calling advocacy, which again includes your reasoning, that you show us how you're doing it, but that you're also able to contrast other very valid points of view and other standpoints, right? That people have different standpoints from you. So if you're able to do all of that, then you're showing me critical thinking and analysis. We've also got this sovereignty assignment that's going to start to help you deconstruct certain terms that you might have learned before, but you didn't necessarily understand. And again, you're going to learn that there's not just one definition, there's not just one answer in law, that there are always competing notions, and so that's something you're going to have to get used to, and we want to see you develop through your assignments. Then there's the final exam, right? Obviously you'll be graded on that. This is going to be going over the major concepts, some of the things that you went over in the quizzes, the assignments, but again, comes from the reader. Most of the questions are multiple choice. There is an essay response that's really asking you to get deep and really start to use the terms and really apply what you've learned. And then it's 100% you want to use quotes and review the rubrics and learning outcomes before you put your answers in, right? So you might want to practice this or use your notes from throughout the semester. Now, a note or a comment on when you complete the Google Forms. You should always keep a copy of your answers, I suggest, in a text document of some sort, right? Google Docs, Word, whatever. And that way, you know, you just copy and paste and keep that for your records. Some of you have computer issues sometimes, right? And so you want to make sure that that you keep that work. When you push the submit button on Google Forms, right? That's what you see. You push submit after you give your answers, and you know, it says congratulations or whatever it says. I get it in this form, right? It comes to me as a spreadsheet that gives me a timestamp. It tells me when you submitted, right? And then it gives me all the answers, and then so I look at everybody's answers, and that helps me grade. You'll know you got credit for it when you go to Blackboard and you look at your grades, right? Just see, you know, quiz 1, okay, that was my score, that's what I got. You'll know that I got it. Generally, I will start grading the assignments towards the end of the week that they're due, right? So if you do the assignment late, that means I'm gonna have to come back to you, which it might take some time. So that's another good reason to get the work done earlier if you want your grade and feedback. You might not be used to using rubrics, and so what I've done is in the syllabus and resources folder, you can go to where it says grading rubrics, you download the grading rubrics, and there's a bunch of rubrics in there. And what a rubric is it basically gives you a roadmap, right? So the pink line over here, the needs revision, those are D answers. So what I've done is I've taken the learning outcomes from these 4 different sections, these units, and I've broken them down using real student work over the years. And so I looked and saw, okay, what do B students tend to do for this learning outcome, right? What do D students or students who are still struggling, what do they tend to do for this other learning outcome? And so this shows you, you know, if I say to you, you're saying I'm struggling with this thing, I say, well, you seem to be recognizing the unequal application of rules, but you're still kind of referring to them as simple procedure, right? That there isn't any human agency, that there isn't any implicit bias, that just, you know, these rules are somehow in your mind operating all by themselves. And so then there's a space for us to start to say, you know, in order for you to go from a C to an A, we have to really focus your energy on really how do these procedural rules get worked out by people, and why do unequal social relations have any influence over that. And so this gives us a way of tracking your progress. I'm also going to give you the opportunity on the final exam to give me a grade based on at least one of these grading rubrics, right? You'd pick one of the learning outcomes and you say, this is why I think I should get a A or a B or a C or a D, right, in the class, is because I can show you, and then you explain how, you know, convince me, right, that you're able to do this. Let me give you 2 more examples, right? A lot of students, when they first take the law, a law class of any kind, you know, I saw students say something like, if police don't have probable cause and they get evidence, they can't use it against you in court. So that's an argument. That's a D answer, that formal legal rules will automatically produce the intended result, not social change in this case, unless of course you're thinking about it as like this is an injustice that happens in the criminal justice system, which of course it is. But in this case, I'm just trying to highlight that the formal legal rules don't automatically protect you, right? Because again, they don't have a life of their own. They're not alive, right? And so a lawyer, your lawyer, let's say, if the police obtain evidence you argue unconstitutionally against you, your lawyer will argue that. However, that the answer is not technically correct. It's certainly true that police officers should have probable cause. That's good. It's helpful when providing evidence in court and if the other side challenges it. But there are 13 exceptions to the Fourth Amendment clause according to Supreme Court cases. And so you'll start to see that if you're looking for, let's say, a libertarian perspective on citizen rights, and that's the social change you're arguing, and you think the law is on your side, you'll start to see cases in which legal rules are actually against social change, that they're going the other direction. They're giving police more power through the cases. And so, that's a pretty typical example depending on, which side of the political aisle you tend to view things on, right? So if you're trying to produce reproductive rights, for example, through the legal system, the most recent Supreme Court case should show you that the legal rules actually work against that social change of giving women greater access to reproductive rights. And so you want to be able to see the constraints and the ways in which issues are empowered. The other, kind of thing is that a lot of times students see law as a universal moral ideal, right? And I think there's, unfortunately, you might have taken a class in which they told you some sociologist from the early 1900s and late 1800s was theorizing that law is social norms, right? And that's nonsense. It might have made sense in a very small community in a small German town in the late 1800s, where everybody knew each other and they were all going to the same church, right? And so the laws definitely represented their beliefs. But in a competing pluralistic society like ours, there are no universal moral ideals, or there are very few, if there are any at all. There are very few. And so people are going to have different ideas about what morality and what law is based on their actual lived experiences, especially if they've experienced injustice. They're going to see the legal system and law differently. And so you want to be able to recognize that there's this conflict of interests and perspectives, and that not everybody's viewpoints are treated the same. And so some get more influence and power than others. These are just a couple examples, and you can look through the rubrics just to see kind of, what all the you got it's, all the A's would look like if you were totally understanding every single thing in the class as you were going through the reader, and really sticking to those learning outcomes. But I just wanted to give you an idea. This is how we can communicate with each other to identify what you're doing well and then what you're still struggling with. And this gives you a much better sense beyond just the points, right? The points kind of give you a sense of how well you're completing the assignments. But this gives us a little bit more detailed language on what you need to do to improve. And perhaps maybe some extra credit to show that you can do the right-hand green, you got it A column. So finally, use the course schedule in the syllabus to keep track and keep you organized of what you need to get done. Take a look ahead so that you can plan ahead, and then just remember everything's broken down by week in the course schedule and the syllabus, but also in the Blackboard shell. And so that's how you should approach this class, and hopefully you now can get started without any hesitation, and you'll have ordered the book, and I look forward to working with you.